What is up, guys? How's everything going? Victor here with yet a brand new video. This time I want to talk about the matchup that's going to be happening on May 8th. Justin the Highlight Gaethje versus Tony El Ferguson. Definitely one of the most anticipated matchups of 2020 so far this year. With everything that's been going on so far with the whole COVID-19, Dana White has officially said that May 8th is officially going to be the date for UFC 249. And this is going to be for the interim lightweight championship of the world. Basically, Tony is just defending his title that he's never lost. Now, that most interesting thing about this fight is that it's going to be extremely crazy, and I just want to share out some very informative information for you guys. Starting off with Tony Ferguson. Now, Tony is 25-3 in the UFC. 32% of his wins have come by submission. He has 8 submissions total in his whole entire career. He's a BJJ black belt. He's a former Division I wrestler at Grand Valley State University. He's on a 12-fight win streak, and he hasn't lost in 8 years. 8 years ago, he lost to Michael Johnson, who Justin Gaethje knocked out just a couple years back. Also, just a couple things that I want to point out when it comes to Tony is that he's very active when he's on the ground. He's very lethal, especially when it comes to the darts choke. And he's very easily with the ankle pick as well. He can get that off very easily. He can set his opponents up perfectly as well. And he's very nasty when it comes to his elbows. He can actually hit you with them when he's on the ground, when he's on his back. He can also hit you with them when he's on his feet. And he can slice you up with those elbows in all different types of angles that you wouldn't even imagine. Now with Justin Gaethje is a different story. He's 21-2 in the UFC. His lone 2 losses have been Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Gaethje, who are 2 former champions of their own right as well. Now, 86% of his wins have come by knockout or TKO, which means he has some serious powers in his hands as well. He's a former Division I wrestler, just like Tony Ferguson. He's a former World Series of Fighting lightweight champion, and he's very nasty when it comes to his power. He has a lot of power, especially with that overhand right hand. That overhand right hook that he throws has knocked out Donald Cerrone. It's knocked out Edson Barboza. It's knocked out James Vick. It's knocked out 3 very good opponents that he's faced so far in his UFC career. And also, he's very lethal with his leg kicks as well. I know with his fight with Eddie Alvarez, he was just blasting him with leg kicks. During his fight with Dustin Poirier, he was blasting him with leg kicks as well. I'm pretty sure those guys had to be helped out of the octagon just because they couldn't be able to walk straight because of those leg kicks. And Tony isn't a stranger as well when it comes to the leg kicks either. But the biggest difference I want to talk about with both of these fighters is the BJJ background. Tony is a black belt in BJJ. 8 of his fights have ended via submission on his side, which means Tony is very, very experienced. For crying out loud, his coach is Eddie Bravo, one of the most experienced and one of the best BJJ black belts in the whole world of BJJ itself. So having someone like that be with you during your career will definitely help out your grand game, which is why Tony is one of the best BJJ black belts in all the UFC right now. Justin, he only has 1 win by submission out of 21 wins in total. So it's telling you that Justin really doesn't like to go to the ground. He doesn't like spending any type of time in the ground as well. Even though he's a Division I wrestler, I really haven't seen him utilize his wrestling in his UFC career so far, which is very concerning to me. If you're going to fight a guy like Tony Ferguson, who likes to eat shots and who can eat them and retaliate and give them back to you, it's going to be very difficult, especially for Justin, who can get punch drunk at times. He got punch drunk against Eddie Alvarez. He got punch drunk against Dustin Poirier as well. He also got punch drunk against Michael Johnson. So that's 3 fights right there where he was punch drunk. And if Tony gets you punch drunk, he will take advantage and he will knock you out or submit you right off of the bat. The thing with Tony is that he does like to keep his chin a little bit up in the air like this, especially when he's fighting. Some guys have actually taken advantage of that. I know Kevin Lee's taken advantage of that. Who else has taken advantage of that? There's one fighter, he just fought him basically in Vegas. Anthony Showtime Pettis, he took advantage of that as well. He knocked Ferguson down, but like I said, Ferguson's got a pretty good chin. Even though he got dropped, he was able to cover really fast. And when he did take that fight against Pettis, he actually came out of surgery. Basically, I think he came out 6 months later after tearing his MCL. because he tripped over a couple of wires or something like that. If he was able to fight that well, coming back off a torn MCL, really, really early off of that against an opponent such as Anthony Pettis. And I know Anthony has been fighting really well lately, and I know his career has been up and down a whole lot, but still, that's a very high caliber opponent, especially to come back from a torn AC to fight against. So right now, I do believe that Tony Ferguson is 100%, and I know that both these fighters have beaten Cowboy Cerrone and Edson Barbosa, but I do believe that Tony is going to have the upper edge, especially with his BJJ background. And if it does go to the ground, it's going to be very interesting because, like I said, Justin Gaethje was a Division I wrestler. He did stay for the 4 years before transitioning into the MMA world. So if it does go to the ground, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Can Gaethje reverse some positions? Can he get on top? Can he be able to finish Ferguson with some ground and pound? If he does knock him down and get on top of him, pull guard, any of that, both these men have power. Both these men have different ways of being able to take your head out, take your head off, or even finish you. So I do think that Tony's definitely going to have the upper advantage. But if there's any fighter in the UFC lightweight division that can play spoiler to the future plans of Khabib versus Ferguson, then it's definitely Justin Gaethje. Now, I would have liked to see Justin Gaethje fight Conor McGregor. I know a lot of us were actually talking about that, but looks like that those plans are actually going to be put on hold. Another reason why I'm very worried about Gaethje is that he's taking this fight on short notice. Now, because of the first attempt of booking this fight with Ferguson and Gaethje got called off, Gaethje now has more time to actually prepare. I think he's had about maybe close to a month of actually preparing for this fight, so I don't think he's going to have a problem making the weight. I don't think he's going to have a problem getting ready for Tony Ferguson. All he has to do is watch a couple of fights of Ferguson's past and see what Ferguson has done wrong, how Ferguson's almost got knocked out a couple times in the past as well, and how he can be able to utilize that information into the octagon and try finishing Tony. Because as the rounds go on, Tony gets more dangerous. Also, Tony's got world-class cardio as well. Justin actually does have a good amount of cardio as well. I don't see him get tired that much, but he did get tired during his fight with Dustin Poirier. They almost did go the full 5 rounds. So, and another thing about Justin Gaethje is that all of his fights, except for one in the UFC, have been main events. The only fight that he had that wasn't a main event fight was against Eddie Alvarez. All of his other fights were main event fights on fight nights mostly in fight nights. None, he hasn't headlined a pay-per-view yet until now. So this is going to be his first pay-per-view headlined event, which is going to be very interesting for Justin. And as the lights get brighter, as the crowds get, actually no, in this case there will not be a crowd, but as the lights get brighter, that's when Justin gets more dangerous and dangerous. So I just wanted to go over all this information with you guys and kind of compare and contrast the differences and similarities between both of the fighters before their upcoming match on May 9th. It's going to be one of the most interesting ones up to this year, and I do hope it's going to be a firecracker and a slugfest between both of these opponents. Justin likes to get in the slugfest, and so does Tony as well. So we shall see what happens when this fight happens, and it's going to be an interesting one for sure. I don't know if it's going to be a fight of the night just because of how stacked that UFC 249 card is, but it's definitely going to be up there when it comes to fight of the night. So I appreciate you guys for watching this video. I want to put more content out there as soon as possible, and I'll get back to you guys. Thanks.